Well, now, it looks like that hero has been busy. They started a revolution in the world below. Such is the way of things. Hmm, If the information I received was reliable, then that so called hero of the lower world should arrive any minute now. I know those guards won't be a challenge for them. Not after everything they've been through. Oh, it has been quite the journey, hasn't it? Almost makes me sad I won't be here to witness what comes next. But I shouldn't need to worry about the future right now. There isn't much I can do about it. The only one who needs to worry about that is them. Marvelous entrance, I must say. You always were big on the theatrics, even if my doors have perfectly working handles. Well, here we stand, face to face at last, hero. Is this it? Do you think this is the big final battle? A showdown between good and evil? The climax of your story that everyone has been anticipating with bated breath? I'm afraid that I must shatter your little narrative here. But the climax has already happened. I have been defeated already. You've won. Don't you see what I mean? Then humor me for a moment longer, will you? You have no need to fear me. If I were to kill you here, that would accomplish nothing. I wish for you to look out over the city, over your home. Now, what do you see? I could have figured as much. You look out and you see this revolution. The people are brimming with fortitude and gallantly fighting against their oppressive force. The fires of liberation burn bright from within them. In that case, would you like to hear what I see as I look out then? When I look out, I see a burning city. I see the destruction of a society. People are fighting over what they believe to be right. The fires that burn are fires of destruction. But from the ashes from this society, a new one will rise and take its place. Eventually, that one too shall burn down, and this cycle will continue to repeat itself again and again and again and again. I'm afraid there's no escaping it. The world that you will build will soon crumble too. You say that it will not crumble. Then enlighten me. After my reign is toppled, you will be the one in command, right? You are, after all, the hero that these people love and trust so much. So what will you do? Will you keep the power for yourself? I doubt that many people would complain. You, after all, would look out for everyone. You would take care of them. It would be in everyone's best interest if you were in charge looking after them. But no, of course not. A society ruled by one individual is what you have been fighting against, right? That is why you oppose me. So let me venture a guess. That little underground crew that's been by your side this entire time? Oh, of course I know about them. I have eyes everywhere in this empire. And what you would do with your crew is you would delegate power to them. You would gather a union. Maybe you would even allow the populace to have representatives in your little royal court. But what then? Eventually, disagreement will arise, and in this disagreement, nothing would get done. Your government would stagnate. And in the upcoming years, you have to rebuild a society from the ground up. You won't be able to afford any setback like that. And if you want to know why it is that I say this, then I have seen it happen before. 500 years ago, I stood where you stand now, Except I wasn't against a single tyrant. I stood against an oligarch, the ruler, and those beside him that claimed to represent the people. Those people were corrupt. They consolidated their power and used it for the benefit of themselves and all their goons, all on the backs of the common folk who worked day and night to put them there. So I opposed them. I was my people's hero. It was me who ended the age of oppression for my people. After toppling that oppressive government, then I was the one who was appointed power. As a people, we decided that placing the power in the hands of many was dangerous. If any one person should hunger for more power, then their corruption too shall spread from the others. It would be too easy to ruin a society that way. And if you have an entire government run by those that are corrupted by their own power, the people stand a very small chance. So we decided that it would be best if we didn't do that. After all, one bad apple spoils the barrel. So I was granted complete authority. There is nothing inherently wrong with tyranny, after all. It's the job of a tyrant to look after his people. If this happens, the society can flourish. And so, I was entrusted with running this government. I was even granted sacred water from the spring of divinity, and it granted me astounding longevity, so I could look after this world for years to come. But I learned all too quickly that I had to make some hard decisions. Those that were close to me, and those who played key parts in overthrowing the old government, to them, I granted status. They were nobility. Those who fought in my armies were also given high-ranking positions, and the rest of the lay people were common folk. That is what made sense. I wanted to reward those who were brave enough to stand by me against an impossible foe. And the common folk, too, were rewarded. They were, of course, free from oppression. However, as time went on, those that were born into noble houses started feeling superior to the common folk, as if nobility was their birthright, and that gave them superiority. To be honest, it pissed me off. I wanted to do away with the noble houses when I saw what was going on, when those feelings arose. But there was no way for me to do that without sabotaging my own power. I was backed by the noble houses, of course. And if I were to do away with the noble houses, there would be unimaginable civil unrest, possibly even riots. And the noble houses and military were my greatest allies. I couldn't play my hand against them. I couldn't sacrifice my position. I couldn't trust anyone else to look over the government. So I kept the noble houses. For a time, the common people didn't care. They were with me too, after all. However, people started speaking out against my rule, about this structure of social hierarchy, against my tyranny. And for a time, I let them. I didn't think there was any harm in it. They weren't going to gain any momentum. But I was wrong. They did gain momentum, and I couldn't have that. If another rebellion were to occur, it would be just as bloody as the last one. I don't want any more bloodshed. So I sent agents to speak out with these firebrands, those that started civil unrest. These agents found their ways into the lives of these rebels, and they tried to, through subtle ways, convince them that my ways were fine, that they were better than what they suggested. For the most part, it didn't work. Those rebels were still gaining momentum. So I tried to convince them myself. I invited them to have talks. I tried to enact legislation that took power from nobility and gave it to the people. But as long as nobility was still established, as long as I was still in power, then those people were unhappy. And I realized that bloodshed was inevitable. It was just a matter of how much I wanted. So what would I do? Were I to get rid of the nobility, I would lose my position. How would I keep everyone safe then? So, I sent agents out to silence and censor those who spoke against me. And I felt no remorse for doing so. Why fret over the few lives lost when it saved the lives of many? After all, you can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs. But not even that worked. People just got better at avoiding my agents and my watchful eyes. Their underground networks became better connected. So I sent out spies, and I kept surveillance over this city. Nothing was outside of my grasp. And as this anti-tyrant sentiment had spread, I expanded my influence. And soon my entire empire was under my surveillance. And I silenced all those that I could get my hand on that spoke against me. And I kept those people oppressed so that they wouldn't rise against me. I kept the nobility strong so I could keep my power. That's when I realized what I had become. I had become what I had swore to destroy. If I had kept my power and kept oppressing my people, it would lead to greater destruction in the long run. If I had stepped down, whoever I appointed would be the target of the people. If I fled, I would be hunted down. Were I to kill myself, then the vacuum of power left would create a struggle between the noble houses for power. But I knew one thing that would work. A hero had to rise up and stand against me. And I was going to create that hero. And that's where you came in. My spies told me about your existence. You were left on the streets. You were a good sneak thief, and you had a certain charm to you. You were getting good at evading my men, and I knew that you harbored a certain distaste for me. And I figured you had everything that you needed to become the hero of the people. So, I had my spies pay off a simple street gang to capture you. Do you remember? The cut purses. That's the gang. But then, something else happened. A rebel group came in and killed the cut purses. That's because they heard from an anonymous source that someone of importance was kidnapped. That the tyrant was afraid that this someone that was kidnapped had the potential to overthrow him. And so, this rebel group, the Sparks, they called themselves, they came in and they rescued you. But of course it was my spies that tipped them off. I'm just lucky that they saw your potential. You became a part of their little family rather quickly. So why did I choose them? Their leader was strong. He was charismatic. He could capture the hearts of those around him. I knew he wanted to overthrow me. He wanted to see my head on a pike. And he was someone who could do it too. And I also knew that he would take a liking to you. He and his late wife never had a child, but he became like a father to you. He practically adopted you. He's a good man. The people loved him. And that's why I took him away from the people at the height of his popularity, because it would give everyone that much more reason to hate me. Oh, I didn't kill him, no. I couldn't bring myself to do that. He's still alive, here in this tower, in the lowest level, being watched over by my personal guard. Very high security, of course. If it were any common soldier watching over him, I knew that he would probably win them over. He could convince any soldier I positioned down there. So yes, I didn't kill him. I let him live. I didn't want any death. Even now, even as I see myself for the Dark Lord that I am, as the tyrant that oppressed my people, standing here in front of the hero that will free them, I still want what is best for them. Don't look at me with that pity. This is the way things are. We were fated to meet this way. We're kindred spirits, you and I. So, strike me down and be done with it. Or perhaps, let me live if you so desire. I may lend you my counsel if you need it, if you need someone who knows what will happen next. But I leave this choice to you.